from TSN.
Clear.
Steve, at the beginning of the season, you mentioned one of your big priorities was to instill stability and confidence in the group. Given how the season ended up, like, how do you feel that shook out in the end?
I feel confident, Claire, that we were able to establish some of that, and it was on the work in the backs of Jacques Martin and the coaching staff. I do feel like he made a significant impact. I think when you're evaluating coaches, and you probably look at the win-loss record first. But I think if you watched our games and how we played under Jacques and how we grew as a team, I think that he had a significant impact in talk about stability, but also professionalism, detail, and the approach to the game. So I want to thank Jacques again for that. But as far as looking for that stability and looking for that next layer for us to continue to build this program on, I do feel good about that.
And when you had the exit interviews with the players, like when they came in yesterday, the word frustrated was something that resonated.
Yeah.
What was your sense from them yesterday?
I think it was that. I really do believe that we have an incredibly well-intended group of players. I do believe that they care. I believe that they need to continue, and a lot of our discussion was on how they continue to grow, not only as a player, but as a teammate and as a leader for all of our players. So I think there was the frustration, I think, comes from, and I've mentioned this before, on the expectations. And when we talk about expectations, my expectations are what I was seeing a little bit more of at the end of the season, as far as team play, details, habits. The only way we can get to the expectations that we have for ourselves is by looking after that. So I think the word frustration comes from not being able to meet expectations. But I think we need to take it back a little bit to be able to start to build towards those expectations.
Wayne Scanlon, Sportsnet. Steve, when you look at where you came up short this year, do you see it as more of a personnel issue, or is it the consistency on the ice that wasn't there?
I would say, Wayne, that it was a little bit of both. I think that anytime you go through a situation like this, and been on the job for 3.5 months, you try and have an impact in certain areas as much as you can. But it was a very important year for evaluation and how we're going to approach moving forward. I just think that we want to continue to grow from within. I think that there's massive potential for internal growth with this group, the way that it is now. In saying that, there are areas that need to be addressed, and that's my job.
How much change do you think fans can expect over the course of the summer?
I don't know how to really kind of quantify it. I mean, there's going to be change inevitably. There always is. We'll look at every opportunity. If we're going to make changes, they have to be, with the right intentions to bring in the right people for the right positions, and and not just with the team. Like, I mean, this is we're working towards building a culture here. So, and that doesn't start and stop with the players. That's got to run right through the organization. Did
any of your UFAs and RFAs get told yesterday they wouldn't be returning?
No. We had open and candid discussions with our players, and I won't get into that, but certainly I think yesterday wasn't the time for that.
With regards to the search for a head coach, where are you in that process? Have you interviewed people, and what's the timeline for maybe getting a new coach in place?
In process and ongoing, for sure. We have spoken to a couple of people. We have a longer list. I think making sure that we take the appropriate amount of time to be able to, look at everybody that may be available is important. Now, as we're going through the process and we feel like we have the perfect candidate, then we would move on it. But certainly at this point in time, we're still working through our list.
Do you envision that happening after the playoffs?
Hard to tell. Yeah, hard to tell. I think, if some of these conversations move along, more briskly, and we feel comfortable that they're checking the boxes to be our next head coach for the Ottawa Senators, I think we would move on it. It's hard to tell from a timing perspective.
Is Daniel Alfredson somebody you're considering for a head coach?
I had a great conversation with Alfie. I could say that he's not going to be in consideration for the head coaching job at this point in time, and I think this is something that I think we left a little bit open-ended, but I think he does believe that if he does continue on the coaching path, that he'll need a little bit more time.
Murray Pam, Full Press Hockey. Are you able to speak about the existing coaches at the moment at their position for next season?
Yeah, I mean, I can't thank them enough. I think with Jacques, I'll start with Jacques, and Jacques is going to continue on with the organization in a consultant role, and I'm allowing the other coaches the time to sort of, let things unfold. In our process to bringing in a head coach, there's a number of ways that it looks at as far as building out the support staff. I think very highly of all of our coaches and the job that they've done. Extremely passionate and talented people, and I'm not sure how it all unfolds for them, but certainly I have no problem saying that I'd welcome each and every one of them back.
Tim Baines from Post Media. Is there a specific positional concern? Is there one area that you believe this team needs to be better in going forward?
I think there's a number of areas where we can get better, Tim, for sure. If I were to think specifically, I think, I'll bring up the goaltending. I think that, and because, and I said it before, but I do believe the goaltenders we have are better than their numbers. I think that, so I think the question is, do you address that because they had off years? There's a number of areas that we needed to address. I think initially, going back to Jacques and the coaching staff and laying the foundation of how to play the right way, how to act like an Ottawa Senator, the details and the habits, I think allowed us a chance to evaluate all areas. There's certainly some areas that we do want to get involved in and try and help out from a management perspective to help this group out. I'm also excited about the internal growth of this group moving forward as well.
Just specifically with the goaltenders, Eunice Corposello has, I think, 4 more years left in a contract. Can you commit? Will he be back next year? Are you looking at all? Are you looking at everything, or can you commit to him being returning as one of your goaltenders next year?
I would say that we'll look at everything, not specific to Corpy, as you've brought up, and his contract. Again, I think that, and I know that he will perform at a better rate next year. We're going to look at all areas to try and improve.
Jacob Chychrun is one guy. There was a buzz around the trade deadline, certainly in him and some other guys. 1 year remaining on his contract. Would you be open to opening contract talks with him? What's the situation, obviously, with a guy that's going to be looking at some point for probably a pretty lucrative contract?
Well, I would say that Jacob Chychrun is a heck of a player. I mean, I think that we saw his talents this year with our group. When you talk about the buzz or the names at the trade deadline, names of good hockey players come up often. And so as far as moving forward, I won't open up any conversation about in this forum on contracts or status or what we're doing. But we think highly of Jacob Chychrun and a lot of our players. Now, we'll look at all areas to see how it all fits. And that's our job as a management staff to look at as we move into the off season.
Sorry, last question. We saw flashes of potential. We saw what this team can be. We also saw the other side of it. What's your biggest takeaway, your biggest, I guess, disappointment from the season that was?
I don't know. I mean, probably the biggest disappointment is we saw when we played at our potential that we're a very good team. And in particular against some of the contending teams. We played some of our best games. Pinpointing exactly what it is to be consistent, I think that there's a number of areas. I really do. I think that the players need to go through, as hard as it is, they need to go through these scenarios and situations and years where it's utter disappointment, because it'll only drive them to get better. They have to go through a year where there is conflict and there is turmoil. They need to learn how to deal with that. And that's what I talk about from internal growth. As hard as the season was for us as managers and for our fans and for our players, it might be the most important year to building this program and team to where we need to get to. These are the hardships that, if you use them in the right way, you learn. I asked the players yesterday specifically to self-reflect. And I thought that that's important, to be able to do it and to do it honestly. And I think that you don't have a chance, when things are going really well, you don't self-reflect all that much. I think this is a good opportunity for us.
Tim Stützle is a player, young star, beloved by the fans here. He looked frustrated at times out there. He talked yesterday about some injury issues that he had. What kinds of things would you like him to work on in his game?
Well, when you're a top talent like that, you feel like you can make an impact on every shift. And so when it doesn't happen, that's the frustration. That'll be the growth for Tim. And we know it's coming. How can we help him? How can we support and expedite that growth, that maturity? You know, it does take time, but I've talked to him specifically about that. His intentions are to go out there and help the Ottawa Senators on every single shift, and using his God-given talents to be able to do it. So when it doesn't happen for him, there is some frustration. Now, as you mature, he's going to learn how to channel that in the right way.
One person-
From Radio-Canada. What do you think of the work of Jacques so far? He probably worked more than you thought he would when you hired him. And keeping him as a consultant, does it give you the opportunity to hire a younger coach?
Sorry, the first question again?
What do you think of the work of Jacques?
With the work of Jacques. I think that he provided everything that we needed, as far as where we were as a group, the age of our group, where we lacked. He certainly brought that foundational piece, and I believe it's going to be lasting for this group moving forward. So I think he's done a tremendous job. He brings poise, professionalism, details, wisdom, along with our coaching staff in general, to be able to, for these players, this core group of players moving forward. As far as keeping him on as a consultant, you know, there's a lot of work to be done in my job and our jobs as managers, and it's always good to have someone with that experience that's in and around the game, and also there for our coaches, whomever our next head coach would be, if he needs to tap into Jacques or needs anything from that perspective. Also, he's a great hockey mind, so as far as special assignments and maybe evaluation for me moving forward, we want to continue to bring in good people into our organization, and Jacques is an incredible gentleman.
One person we didn't get to chat with yesterday was Josh Norris. Can you just tell us, like, how his surgery went, but also did he get the same surgeon, and what his mental state is like right now, given some of those things?
I won't speak specifically to the surgery, but it went well, and he's going to be ready to go come training camp for us. I think Josh is an incredibly resilient young man, and I mean, all of our players go through injuries at certain times, and Josh is dealing with another significant one so early in his career. But he's, I think he's doing very well with it. I think probably because he's gone through it already, and he knows the routine, unfortunately. But I expect Josh to be 100% healthy, both physically and mentally, and we'll support him on both sides of it going through this. I know specifically that the injury is probably less important at certain times when you go through long rehabs, and having the mental support from us as an organization is going to be important.
Zachary Mercier from Le Droit. Since Michael and Lauer bought the team, he talked a lot about the French importance in this organization. How do you view that on the hiring a new coach? There's a couple names who are bilingual. Jacques was bilingual. How do you view this on the hiring coach of the process?
Well, I do think it's important. I think, and Michael and I have made a commitment to learn some more French and hopefully one day be able to answer your questions. We think it's important for us as an organization. Obviously, Michael does as well, and it would certainly be a factor in it. I don't think it can be the major factor. What we're really digging in on, there's a long list of coaches who are very good coaches that can come in and coach the Ottawa Senators. What we're really trying to do is find the right person for the job at this time with our group. And we've had time to evaluate our group on where we think they are, and trying to find that personality and that style of coach. If he's bilingual, checks another box for us. But it is important to Michael, and it is important to us as an organization.
Alex Adams, Hockey News. Just what's your philosophy? It's your first draft coming up in a couple months. Is it best player available? You're going to have a top pick. Just maybe speak to what you're thinking there.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I can speak to it. I think we look for specific things to start our evaluation off. We certainly value character and hockey sense. We got an incredible group of amateur scouts that have really been grinding it out, and I'm looking forward to getting down to the final list. We'll have our meetings here in a couple weeks in Ottawa. But as far as philosophy, might be a time in the draft where you look positional, but certainly at the top of the board, we're looking at best player.
Is there a point person on the amateur staff that is going to be running the draft that you're counting
Don
on?
Boyd's the head of our amateur. Yeah.
You feel like the pressure is on you with this summer about all the movement, everything. Couple files on your table, but do you feel like the pressure is on you maybe to do something? The last 2 seasons has been maybe some disappointment to the fans, and some key players' contract has been going to an end at the end of the next season.
Do I feel that? I'm driven to find something, but as far as pressure, I don't feel pressure to try and do something just to do. If I felt pressure to do something, I would have made a couple of trades at the trade deadline that at the end of the day wouldn't have made sense, but at least I would have had something to talk to you about. So just to know how I'm approaching this off season, I don't think that I'm not going to do anything just to do anything, and it has to be the right fit. And we've worked diligently as a staff to identify where we need to get better. We've identified the list of players that may be available either via free agency or trade, and that'll be our approach.
Without naming a particular player or circumstance, would you consider a buyout as a tool in your toolbox for this summer?
I mean, I would consider anything. I don't believe that there's any consideration for that for us, for this group at this time.